Okay, good morning, guys. Coming off of Easter weekend, I wanted to bring part of this lesson to you by video. This is my second try on the video. The first try on the video, I realized that you could see from my neck down the whole time and couldn't see my head. So that was discouraging. Had to go outside, take a little walk, get a breath of fresh air, kill the wasp, and I'm back. So I'm going to bring example 1 to you in this lesson, 9.4, just example 1 via YouTube, and the rest of today's lesson you can get in the normal way. So why don't you go ahead and write your title down, take a quick read of this, and then this is not example 1, just something good to know that we'll talk about here in a second. So why don't you pause me for a second and just read everything on here. Okay, all right, also if you haven't checked your quiz grade yet, please make sure you do, and maybe go back and look at your quiz and review it just like you would in class. If I gave it back to you, you'd take a quick look and see the mistakes you made, or remind yourself of some things you did well. And the quiz averages were very good, very proud of you guys. And if some people, if you want to call me, text me, email me, or talk about your quiz, then you go ahead and do that, and we'll talk about how you can get better, what improvements you can make, because it's all going to be on the test at the end of chapter 9. Okay? All right, so solving quadratics by factoring today. Quick reminder is that if you see an equation that looks like this isn't x equals 25. That wouldn't be an equation, that would be solved already. This is x squared equals 25. So need to remind you how to take care of this. So the opposite of squaring is taking the square root. So if you take the square root of x squared, what do you have? You just have x. But the real reminder is, what's the square root of 25? Well, people say 5, and you're right, but you're only half right. The square root of 25 isn't just 5, it's also negative 5. So remember this symbol? What did we call this? We called this the posneg symbol, positive or negative. So your answer is posneg 5. It's positive or negative 5. And real quick, why does that make sense? Well, 5 times 5 is 25, but negative 5 times negative 5 is also positive 25. So that's going to come in today. All right? Here's example 1, part A. Write it down, and we'll solve it together. Okay, first of all, you might be saying, this doesn't look like one of our quadratic trinomials with the x squared term and the x term and the c, the a, b, c. Well, we're still in quadratics, and we're still trying to find the roots. So it's the same stuff, we're just doing it algebraically, okay? So what we have here is an expression that's all getting squared. So it's a quantity squared. Well, how do we get rid of this squared sign? We're going to take the square root of the whole thing, okay? Now, all that happens when you do this is that this goes away, and you're left with x minus 3. All right, and then what's the square root of 64? Well, 64 is a perfect square, and its square root is 8. 8 times 8 is 64, but think back to that last slide. The square root of 64 isn't just 8. It's positive or negative 8, so posneg 8. Okay, now we're not done, and what we're about to do is something very new, but I think it'll make sense. If we were to solve this as a one-step equation, we would do x minus 3 equals 8. But the deal is, and we are going to do that, x minus 3 equals 8. But according to the posneg sign, x minus 3 doesn't just equal 8. X minus 3 also equals negative 8. So now we've got two equations to solve, which, hey, by the way, it looks like a couple questions on your quiz where you had two roots to find. All right, solve your two one-step equations, and those are your two roots. Add 3, x equals 11. There's one of your roots. And then add 3, x equals negative 8 plus 3 is negative 5. So there are your two roots at 11 and negative 5. And that's it for that one. Okay? Let's go over here. Write that down. Okay, this time we've got a little something in the way. We have a quantity getting squared, but we also have a plus 7. First, we need to get rid of that plus 7. Actually, first, I'm going to make sure that this is getting on the camera. Sweet. Okay, here we go. We need to get rid of that plus 7. Back when you were in 7th grade, I'd say, how do we get rid of a plus 7? And you'd say, with a minus 7. And we'd say, yay, minus 7. Okay, that goes away. Bring down what we didn't use. Okay, now where are we? Now we're right back where we were in part A. Okay, how did we do that? We took the square root of both sides. What does that do? It just gets the squared to drop, and we have y plus 5 equals, okay, now here's what you need to remember. What does y plus 5 equal? Well, the square root of 21. Problem with the square root of 21 is it's not a perfect square. Okay, over here, 64 was a perfect square. We got a nice whole number, 8. The square root of 21, type it in your calculator, it's a nasty decimal. This is not a perfect square. So we are not going to work with a nasty decimal. We're also not going to round the decimal. We are just going to keep it as the square root of 21. Okay, now don't forget, it's also the positive square root of 21. Okay, so let's do what we did before. Let's take this and split this. Y plus 5 equals the square root of 21. That's one of our equations. And the other one is y plus 5 equals the negative square root of 21. Okay, solve them both, subtract 5, and then we're going to write our answer in a way that we haven't ever written an answer before, but we're just going to keep it the way it is. We're going to go y equals negative 5 plus the square root of 21. So our answer is an expression. We've had that before. We just haven't had square roots involved with it. But that's because, again, this 21 is not a perfect square, so it's not a nice number. And then over here, when you solve, minus 5, you're going to get y equals negative 5 minus the square root of 21. I hope you can see that all the way over there. So our two roots are negative 5 plus the square root of 21 and negative 5 minus the square root of 21. Okay? You're going to try a couple on your own. This last one is not very nice. We didn't do one like this. So why don't you do 1A and 1B. Pause me right now and we'll check the answers in a second. All right, hopefully you did the problems. And now I'd like to check the answers real quick. 1A. Anybody want to tell me what they got? Oh, can't respond because there's nobody here. Hopefully you got roots at 3 and negative 15. X equals 3, x equals negative 15. All right? Now this one was like example 1B, where you got an ugly number underneath your square root sign. So you should have gotten 8 plus the square root of 13 and 8 minus the square root of 13. That's 2 answers. I do not want these decimals. I will not ask you to graph decimals, okay? When test time comes, I am not going to have you put x-intercepts at decimals on a graph, okay? And then 1C, we're going to leave that one alone, okay? All right, thanks for tuning in. Hope this was a good start for you. Go see the other part of my Google Doc for the rest of your lesson for today in the way that you are used to hearing my voice. All right?